Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Natsu Had Dual Elements. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. What If Natsu Had Dual Elements is now on hold, since we've caught up with the author. I'd love to do another poll to decide our next project, but unfortunately, due to my travel plans, I won't be able to start a new series until the end of December if we go that route. So instead, I've decided that the series which came in second place in the last poll will be our next project. That means the series replacing What If Natsu Had Dual Elements will be What If Transmigrated into One Piece and Became a Marine? Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 58 Homecoming. Wendy! Natsu exclaimed, leaping off the Dorma Anim's head. Hit me with one of your roars. Got it! Wendy called out as she stopped breathing poisonous gas into the Dorma Anim's cannon and dropped onto the ground. Taking a deep breath to calm herself, Wendy deactivated her poison Sky Dragon mode. I think I understand what Natsu is trying to do and I believe in him. I know he can do it. Wind began to swirl around Wendy as she gathered her magical power. Sky Dragons, roar! Natsu grunted as he was hit by Wendy's breath attack, his entire body being enveloped in the roaring winds. Taking a moment to compose himself, Natsu began to rotate his body, quickly spinning faster and faster. Then, orange lightning began to course off Natsu's body, combining with Wendy's wind and forming what appeared to be a literal thundercloud. Lightning sparked and thunder clapped as the winds surrounding Natsu began to darken, turning a dark shade of gray. Gee, you slick bastard, not only are you using the rotation of the kid's roar. Gajeel thought, a wicked smirk spreading across his face as he watched the raging storm cloud grow and expand, bolts of lightning shooting out of it. But you created a fucking unison raid. Storm Dragons. Rocketing toward the Dorma Anim, the storm cloud flowing around Natsu took the form of a raging dragon, its thunderclaps sounding like a ferocious roar. Raging Blade. Is this a dream? Faust thought in awe as he stared down what seemed to him to be three actual dragons. The mighty beasts showcased their immeasurable strength as they worked in unison to defeat him. Such majestic beasts. With a deafening crack, Natsu slammed clear through the Dorma Anim's chest, grabbing a hold of Faust as he flew through the machine's cockpit. Then, the raging storm clouds surrounding Natsu flowed into every inch of the Dorma Anim, flooding the machine with roaring wind and crackling electricity. A split second later, the Dorma Anim exploded in a brilliant burst of orange electricity and powerful wind as the seemingly invincible machine was torn to pieces, raining debris across the area. With a grunt, Natsu hurled Faust onto the ground, before coming to a skidding stop himself. We did it! Wendy thought, a smile spreading across her face as she felt a wave of relief wash over her. We defeated a dragon. Why, you insolent little. Faust started to curse as he tried to get back onto his feet. However, a feral, animalistic snarl stopped him dead in his tracks. Hesitantly looking up, Faust let out a startled yelp when he saw Natsu glaring at him, the pink-haired dragon slayer's eyes filled with draconic rage. Cowering away, Faust fell back down and crawled backward away from Natsu. Terror was visible on Faust's face as he watched Wendy and Gajeel join Natsu, the three dragon slayers standing over him defiantly. This is the power I wanted to possess? Instead of three humans, Faust saw three menacing dragons standing before him, each of them ready to tear him apart in an instant. Save me. With those final words, Faust gave one last horrified gasp before he fell to the ground, knocked unconscious from sheer terror. The three dragon slayers all smiled and breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that their long battle was finally over. With a toothy grin, Natsu fell to his knees in exhaustion, but still held his arms up triumphantly. Throwing his head back, the pink-haired dragon slayer let out a hearty laugh. Ha 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 ha! We did it! We beat that bastard king! Natsu exclaimed, with Wendy and Gajeel also feeling his infectious excitement. Oh! What did Urza call this situation in chess? Ah! That's right. It's a checkmate, right? You're supposed to say that before you take the king. Gajeel corrected, which caused Natsu to frown and deflate a bit. Gee, you really are an idiot. Oi, don't think I won't dash. Natsu was cut off when the ground beneath them suddenly began to shake violently. Come on, what is it now? A freaking earthquake? Fuck me, you don't think it's enemy reinforcements, do you? You've gotta be shitting me. Gajeel groaned, struggling to get back onto his feet as his legs trembled from sheer exhaustion. I'm totally tapped out. I don't have a speck of magic left in me. Why, you guys, that's not it. Wendy yelled as she pointed toward the sky above them, her eyes widening in shock. Look over there. No way. Natsu breathed out, his heart starting to race in his chest as he watched massive chunks of land falling out of the sky. All across Idolos, those who had been fighting watched in awe and terror as they witnessed the world around them literally begin falling apart. The floating islands, they're all falling. Same time, with the members of Edo Fairy Tale. What the hell? An Idolos soldier exclaimed as he watched the electricity coating his sword fizzle out. Looking at his fellow soldiers, he saw the rest of them appeared to be in a similar situation. Our weapons have suddenly become useless. Ours too. An Edo Fairy Tale member shouted, frantically shaking his magical weapon in an attempt to spark a reaction. What are we gonna do now? Our weapons are totally busted. Just what is happening? Lucy muttered in an exhausted tone as she gazed at what appeared to be magical energy swirling across the battlefield and gathering up in the sky. I've never seen anything like this before. It's all over. Coco mumbled, releasing a distraught sigh as a few tears rolled down her cheeks. The world is going to end. Carla. Happy said in a shaky voice as he reached over and gripped the Whiteford Exceed's paw. Instead of pulling away, Carla squeezed Happy's paw as they watched several floating islands begin to fall out of the sky. Everything going to okay, right? Screw this. Retreat. One of the Idolos soldiers yelled, throwing his weapon to the ground and running away. Immediately the rest of the Imperial soldiers joined him, tossing down their defunct weapons and hightailing it away. We can't fight if our weapons aren't working. Are you serious? Gray asked rhetorically as he rubbed the back of his head. Are they really running away? Just like that? A smile soon spread across Gray's face as he turned to face the members of Edo Fairy Tale. Well, who cares? That means we won. However, he was surprised when he saw the members of Edo Fairy Tale seem to be distraught instead of excited. What's the deal, guys? The magical power. Edo Elfman said, staring up at the circling cloud of magical power. It's disappearing from this world. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Edojet repeated as he appeared to be having some sort of panic attack, gripping his head and shaking. What the fuck are we gonna do? Hey! Pull it together, you guys! Lucy called out, attempting to raise everyone's spirits. Everything will be alright. We just need to dash. How the hell can it be alright? Ashley exclaimed in a mixture of fear and anger as she gripped Lucy's shoulders. Magical power is vanishing from this world. All of it is disappearing. What's gonna happen to magical guilds? Lucy, I know you're scared, but you don't need to take it out on her. Dragaon said, placing a comforting hand on Ashley's shoulder. It's kind of funny. We may have won the battle, but we ended up losing to the world itself. This was our greatest fear. Edo Juvia said as she hung her head, fighting back her tears. The total exhaustion of magical power. Same time, with Mystigan and Lily. Your Highness. Lily said as watched massive amounts of glimmering magic swirl around him and begin traveling toward the sky. Is this really Dash? This is for the best, Lily. Jalal spoke up before Lily could finish, gazing up at the swirling mass of magical power in the sky overhead. In this world, people quarrel because of magic. So, to stop the endless cycle of fighting, I'll permanently eradicate magical power from this world.
Using an anima that I've reversed, Idola's magic will be gathered and swept back into Earthland.
There it'll become vaporized and naturally become part of the plentiful magic that resides in Earthland.
I didn't think you'd actually do it.
Lily muttered as he felt a chill run through his entire body, tightly balling his fists in an attempt to stop himself from trembling. It's true that there likely won't be fighting for a while, but...
I know.
Jalal said, a strong gust of magical power blowing past him which caused his clothes to flutter in the breeze. The citizens are all in a panic. I doubt anyone could adapt to such a rapid change in the world. That's precisely why they need a new leader now. A new king for this new world. A king who can lead a nation gripped in fear to a newfound happiness.
Ah, I see now.
Lily said with a small smile as he felt a wave of relief wash over him.
Price, you'll dash. No. It can't be me.
Jalal cut Lily off a second time, turning around to face the large, black-furred Exceed. It's impossible for me, as I've lived most of my life in Earthland. I can't really call Idalos my home.
And I don't have the right to.
In order to calm the masses we need a hero and a villain.
A hero and a villain?
Lily repeated in a confused tone as he quirked an eyebrow.
Price, I don't understand.
The person who will expose the evil that plunged this world into chaos, and eliminates it, will become the hero. Jalal explained, balling his fists as he locked eyes with Lily.
That hero can unite the people and become king. I must ask.
Lily said in a hesitant tone as he once again felt a chill run through him, causing his entire body to tremble.
Just who will this hero and villain be?
Don't be naive, Lily, surely you've realized it by now. Jalal said, his eyes burning with unwavering conviction. I, who rebelled against the king of Idalos and stole all this world's magical power, will be the villain. And you, who can bring harmony out of the prejudice and misunderstanding between races, would make for a convincing hero. You must execute me, as the traitor who destroyed this world.
And become king, leading the people into a better life. Lily said nothing for several moments as he simply stared at Jalal in utter shock.
However, his face quickly contorted in anger and confusion. Are you seriously spouting this bullshit, Your Highness?
I know I'm putting a lot on you right now, Lily.
Jalal said, releasing a light sigh as he momentarily averted his gaze. But, if I wasn't prepared to die, I wouldn't have done any of this.
I absolutely refuse. This is utter nonsense.
Lily shouted as he violently shook his head, scarcely believing what he was hearing.
Why do I have to be the one to kill the prince? There's no way. You can do it, Lily. Jalal reassured the Exceed, looking back up and once again locking eyes. I know you can. What the hell do you even know about me? Lily spat as he huffed in frustration, glaring at Jalal.
We barely know each other. That may be true, but you saved my life when I was an infant, even though you're an Exceed.
Jalal said, raising his arm and pointing at Lily.
You're a man who understands the preciousness of life.
Despite the teachings of your fellow Exceed. Are you seriously asking me to bear that cross for my entire life? Lily exclaimed as he felt tears sting his eyes, tightly balling fists. To live with the burden of killing an innocent man. I believe you have the strength to overcome that.
Jalal said, lowering his arm as his eyes softened a bit.
He fully understood the inner turmoil that Lily was experiencing.
Please understand, Lily, someone has to do it.
Then do it yourself.
You're the perfect choice for king. You may believe that you've led this world to destruction, but you did all of this for our sake. Lily roared as he rushed forward and tightly gripped Jalal's shoulders. Baring his fangs in anger, Lily pressed his forehead against Jalal's. It's precisely that strong will that led you to put your life on the line for Idola's future.
We need that more than anything right now.
Letting out a frustrated growl, Lily roughly shoved Jalal away. If you're the one who's going to destroy the world, take responsibility for it. And not by running away and dying. By taking charge and leading this world. Jalal muttered as he tore his eyes away once again, the entire structure around them shaking now.
This chaos won't be settled that way. Fine, if that's the way things must be, Lily said, pausing for a moment as he took a deep breath. I'll be the villain. Jalal's eyes widened in surprise, hearing that Lily wanted to flip their roles. After being banished from Extalia, I walked alongside the humans. Because of this, I betrayed my home nation. I have no place to return to. I'll accept the duty of being executed by Dash. That's not happening, Jalal proclaimed as he grit his teeth in frustration. You're the one who saved me. I won't let you die, not like this. I will ensure you obtain happiness. And I'd say the same for you, Lily said, causing Jalal to pause and reflect. Releasing a heavy sigh, Lily lowered his gaze, his eyes filled with contention. Whichever of us takes responsibility and dies, it will only bring sorrow. Then, how do we quell this panic? Jalal asked as he turned around and gazed at the growing vortex of magical power. Maybe, this wasn't a good plan after all. Should I have thought of a different idea? Panter Lily-sama, an Imperial guard exclaimed in a panic, running into the chamber. I have terrible news. You're a little late, Lily said as he gestured toward the anima, continuing to guzzle up the world's magical power. If it's about the anima, I already know all about it. That's not it, the guard shouted, frantically pointing down the hall he had come from. There are people rioting outside the castle. Entire neighborhoods are being destroyed. It looks like the panic is far worse than I had anticipated, Jalal said, which caused the guard to quirk an eyebrow, finally taking notice of the blue-haired man's presence. We have to come up with a plan quickly. Let's get going, Lily said, jogging down the hall, with Jalal and the guard following closely behind him. We need to stop those riots before this chaos continues to spread. Quickly reaching a balcony, Lily and Jalal joined up with a few other guards, overlooking the panicked city. So, how many rioters are there? 3, sir. One of the guards stationed on the balcony replied, quickly saluting Lily. Just 3? Lily repeated in a confused tone as he leaned against the balcony, searching for the 3 people causing trouble. Why haven't they been arrested yet? Well, you see, that's the thing, sir, the guard said in a nervous tone, ringing the hilt of his spear. They're very strong. Ah ha 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 ha. Lily's ears perked up when he heard boastful, almost theatrical, laughter echoing out in the distance. Turning toward where the laughter was coming from, Lily was shocked to see Natsu Dragneel standing atop a roof and breathing out a stream of blue flames. The pink-haired dragon slayer was dressed in what appeared to be a makeshift demon costume, complete with horns and a tattered cape. I am the all-powerful demon lord. The everlasting. The eternal. Natsu Dragneel. I'll be taking all of this world's magical power for myself. Ah ha 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 ha. What the hell is that pink-haired idiot doing? Jalal hissed as he tightly gripped the balcony's railing. However, seeing people seemingly cowering away from Natsu, apparently buying his demon lord act, the wheels in Jalal's head began to turn. Is Pinky doing what I think he is? Look at this, you peasants. I brought your precious king to his knees. Made him bow at my feet. Natsu bellowed in maniacal tone, before making a sweeping gesture toward Faust, who was tied to a pole next to him. Down below, the citizens gasped and stared up at their defeated king in disbelief. Though he defied me, I deemed it fit to spare his life. Wah ha ha ha. This can't be happening. No. Your Majesty. How terrible. How could this happen to our king? Red Fox. Marvel. Natsu proclaimed as he raised his arms into the air, shooting out streaks of orange lighting into the air. My loyal servants. Destroy this pitiful city. Gee hee. Dajil laughed heavily, using his blade arms to slice through several buildings. However, they were buildings that were already prepared to collapse. I won't leave a single home standing. I'll level this entire damn town. Gee hee. Who the hell is that guy? His arms, they turned into swords. He's definitely some type of monster. Get out of the way, he'll destroy everything. Grah. Don't forget about me.
Wendy growled in a less than convincing scary tone as she waved her arms, kicking up large gusts of wind that blew through the streets. Several people were knocked over and their belongings blown away by Wendy's winds. Inhaling deeply, Wendy exhaled a cloud of purple gas that had been cleansed of its poison, sending citizens scattering as they covered their mouths.
Yes. Fear every breath you take, lest you breathe in my deadly poison. Ha ha. That's it. Destroy more of the town.
Natsu exclaimed, shooting a stream of scorching blue flames from his mouth which caused several people to scream in terror.
Go my servants dash. Bah! Servants do this. Servants do that. Gadjil growled in frustration, using his blade arm to slice clean through a nearby street lamp. Shut the hell up, you bastard. TCH, don't break character, just roll with it. Natsu hissed as he glared at Gadjil, the Iron Dragon Slayer returning his annoyed look. After a few moments, Natsu sighed and made a flurry motion with his cape. Whatever man, just get on with it. It couldn't be that they... Lily thought, watching the three Dragon Slayers' bizarre performance. Are they trying to help us? So, they're the ones who are stealing Idola's magical power. The great demon lord, Dragneel. We'll never forgive you, you bastards. Return our magical power now. Heh, I don't think so.
Natsu said with a sadistic grin as blue flames leaked from the corners of his mouth. Rearing his head back, Natsu bellowed a stream of roaring flames.
I'll burn all those who oppose me to a crisp. Stop this, Natsu.
Jalal exclaimed, deciding it was time for him to start playing the pink-haired Dragon Slayers game.
This has gone on long enough. Wait, who is that up there? He knows the Demon Lord? I've never seen him before. Silence, worm. You will address me properly. Natsu cackled as he let out a hearty laugh, relishing in his over-the-top performance. I am the great Demon Lord, Dragneel. Stop this foolishness. Jalal continued, fully committing to Natsu's bit. The kingdom has already fallen.
There's no need to further attack the capital. Natsu said nothing for several moments before a sadistic smirk spread across her face. Inhaling deeply, Natsu fired out a flowing current of orange lightning, sending several citizens below running.
I wonder if you'll be able to stop me, Prince of Idolas. Prince? Did he just say prince? Is he talking about Prince Jalal? Didn't he go missing 7 years ago? I don't get it.
Lily said in a confused tone as he watched the scene before him unfold in total bafflement.
Why are they here? I'm the one who told them.
A voice suddenly spoke up from behind Lily. Turning around, Lily was surprised to see Nadi standing there, his arms still waving energetically. I overheard your conversation, and had them come help.
Ha 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 ha. Come on now, Prince Jalal.
Natsu laughed with a devious grin, his cape dramatically blowing in the wind behind him. If you don't, there won't be a trace left of this city when we're finished.
What is the Magical Warfare Corps doing?
If this keeps going, His Majesty will surely be killed.
He called that man the prince, is that really true?
A villain and hero, Natsu and others seem to be playing their roles perfectly.
Lily thought as he glanced over at Jalal, then at the confused crowd of onlookers gathered below. It doesn't seem like they believe in the prince yet. Natsu, don't move from that spot.
Jalal exclaimed, hopping over the railing and rushing toward the pink-haired dragon slayer.
We're ending this now.
I believe I told you to address me as the great demon lord, Dragneel. Natsu said with a cocky smile as he crossed his arms, electricity crackling in the air around him.
Now, come at me, Prince. Show me what you've got.
It looks like they intend to make the prince into a hero with this farce.
But, if they pretend to fall and are discovered, it'll all be over.
Lily thought, tightly gripping the balcony's railing.
It couldn't be, they really intend to die?
Why, you should prepare yourself too. Nadi said in a nervous tone as he began to tremble a bit.
For what's about to happen next?
You fools! Jalal muttered, sprinting through the streets toward Natsu, dodging past several startled citizens. I know what you're trying to do, but there's no way it'll bring this situation under control. Raising one of his staves, Jalal pointed it toward Natsu. Now, sleep. However, Jalal cursed under his breath when his staff sputtered for a few moments before its magical power was sucked away. Damn it, I forgot about the anima. My magical power is being drained. Ha ha. What's wrong, oh great prince? Are you scared without your magic? Natsu exclaimed as vibrant, orange electricity crackled off his fists. You are, aren't you? Let me show you the true power of magic. Cocking his electrified fist back, Natsu slammed it onto the building he was standing atop. Instantly, cracks formed throughout the building before it began to crumble. Ah ha ha ha. You see. With this power I am unstoppable. Stop it. Jalal exclaimed, watching as the building completely collapsed to the ground. You're taking things too damn far, Pinky. Oh boy. Wendy muttered as she listened to Natsu let out an over-the-top, evil laugh, firing electricity into the air. She chuckled awkwardly, witnessing the pink-haired dragon slayer portraying the stereotypical evil demon lord. I think Natsu is getting a bit too into his role. Gee, I think it's fine. Gajil said with a grin, patting the top of Wendy's head much to the blue-haired dragon slayer's chagrin. He's perfectly playing the villain with all the magical power being confronted by the noble hero who doesn't have any. Alright, Pinky, this charade has gone on long enough. Jalal said as he stood before Natsu, staring down the pink-haired dragon slayer. I know what you're trying to do, but I can't be the hero in your little farce. And you pretending to die won't work on this mob. Heh, this is no charade. Natsu exclaimed with a devious smirk, before suddenly lashing out and hitting Jalal with a sucker punch. The pink-haired dragon slayer's attack snapped Jalal's head back and sent him skidding back a few feet. This is a showdown. Your Highness. That menace is on a rampage. Kia. I can't watch. Damn it, that hurt, you pink-haired prick. And yes, this is a charade. Jalal growled as he cocked his fist back. There's no way you'll fool even one of them like this. When his fist shot forward, Jalal was caught off guard when Natsu effortlessly grabbed it. Just end this already. If no one will be fooled. Natsu said, locking eyes with Jalal, his demon lord facade dropping momentarily. Then you'd better step it up and go all out. Jalal said nothing in response for several moments, simply keeping Natsu's gaze. However, without warning, Jalal whipped his body around and hit Natsu in the face with a spinning kick. Did I step it up enough for you, Pinky? Yeah. Good shot, Your Highness. You've got this. Keep going. Beat him to a pulp. Not bad. I actually felt that one. Natsu said with a grin as he used the back of his hand to wipe his mouth. Looking around, Natsu's grin widened when he saw the crowd growing louder and starting to back Jalal. Looks like the peanut gallery out there is really getting into this. Dumbass. Jalal huffed in frustration, tightly balling his fists. I'm playing along with your stupid story, so just go down already. No way in hell. Natsu exclaimed as he lunged forward, slamming his fist into Jalal's stomach. With his mouth agape, Jalal gasped as all the air was knocked from his lungs. This is my own way of doing the fairy tale farewell ceremony, and I need to pay you back for ditching Wendy. A small smile spread across Natsu's face, causing Jalal's eyes to widen in surprise. Anyone leaving fairy tale needs to be taught the 3 laws. Cocking his fist back, Natsu hit Jalal with another jab to the face. First, you must never, for the rest of your life, reveal any tactics which could be used against fairy tale. Before Natsu could recite the second law, Jalal hit him with an uppercut to the chin. Second, what was it again? This idiot. Jalal thought, inhaling deeply through his nose as he fought back tears. It was finally starting to dawn on him that he may never see Natsu and Wendy ever again. That they'd never get a chance to properly reunite and catch up. Pausing for a moment to recompose himself, Jalal grinned at Natsu, a single tear rolling down his cheek. Second, you must never contact past clients for personal gain.
Yeah, that's right,
Natsu said with a smirk as he regained his footing. Third, though our paths may have diverged, you must continue to live out your life with all your might. You must never consider your own life to be of little value. His smirk widening, Natsu cocked his fist back once again.
And you must never
forget about your friends who loved you.
Jalal finished, cocking his fist back as well.
Suddenly, both Natsu and Jalal attacked, hitting each other in the face simultaneously. Don't worry, it'll be impossible to forget you, Pinky, and everyone else in Fairy Tale.
You get it now?
Natsu asked as he dramatically stumbled backward, before starting to wobble. There's nothing you can't do, so long as you keep the spirit of Fairy Tale within you. After a few more shaky steps back, Natsu fell to the ground, a massive smile plastered on his face. I hope we meet again, Jalal, because we've got a lot of catching up to do.
Natsu,
Jalal muttered, standing over his old friend just as the crowd of onlookers burst out into cheers. To the citizens of Idolos who had watched the fight, it appeared as if their prince had defeated the evil demon lord who had attacked their city. Goddamn, I forgot how hard he punched reaching up. Jalal rubbed his aching jaw and smiled. I hope we meet again as well.
He did it.
The prince won.
You're amazing, Your Highness.
I can't believe it.
You're awesome.
However, the crowd's cheers and celebrations were cut short when Natsu's body suddenly began to glow brightly. Many of them backed up several feet, unsure of what was happening. Jalal, however, stood in place, gazing down at the pink-haired dragon slayer.
Natsu, your body.
Jalal said in a surprised tone as he began to understand what was happening.
I see, so, this is the anima's doing.
Looks like it's starting. Wendy said, staring down at her hands as her entire body began to glow and glimmer.
Let's hope our plan works.
I don't understand. Lily said in shock as his own body began to glow as well.
What the hell is happening?
The reversed anima is removing all of the magical power from Idolos. Nadi explained, his body beginning to shine as well as he continued to rapidly pump his fist. In other words, those of us with internal magic like the Exceed and Dragon Slayers, are all being sucked into Earthland.
Lily's eyes shot open when he heard this.
I think Her Highness was aware of it as well.
It's alright, there's nothing to be afraid of,
Shagat said with a soft smile as she hugged a few of her scared subjects.
There's no longer any need for gods in Idolos.
We too must bravely take a step forward.
I get it, the anima is taking all of the magical power in Idolos,
Lucy said, staring up at the swirling vortex of magical power in the sky overhead.
It's basically kicking us out.
So, we're really going to lose all of our magical power. Edo Gray muttered in a sad tone as he stared down at the ground.
That's just, everything is going to.
Don't get so down. Do you really think you can't have a guild without magical power? Gray asked, causing some of the Edo Fairy Tale members to perk up a bit. With a smile, Gray clasped his hand over his heart.
As long as you remain friends, that right there is a guild.
In another part of Idolos, Urza Scarlet and Urza Nightwalker were watching the events unfold in the capital from a distance away. Despite not being present, both had an idea of what was unfolding. As both scarlet-haired knights continued to watch the magical power being drained from Idolos, they were both caught off guard when Urza Scarlet's body began to glow and she started to ascend toward the anima overhead.
Scarlet,
Nightwalker said as she slowly got back onto her feet, watching her Earthland counterpart float higher up.
Looks like this is goodbye.
Yes, seems like it is, Urza said, reaching out and grabbing Nightwalker's hand before she got too far away.
With a small smile, Urza locked eyes with Nightwalker.
When this is all over, talk with Natsu and Lucy, don't wait. I know it may seem scary, but I know you'll work things out with them.
Don't worry, I will,
Nightwalker said as she released Urza's hand, letting her continue ascending toward the anima. Once Urza was high enough, Nightwalker breathed out a heavy sigh and turned toward the capital. After a brief moment of hesitation, she began to walk toward the partially destroyed city.
Alright, I can't put this off any longer.
At the same time, all across Idolos, every human and exceed with internal magical power was being sucked up into the anima. Natsu, Wendy, and Gadjiel finished their act, pretending to be defeated by Jalal and returning to their original realm. To Jalal's surprise, the citizens of Idolos seemed to completely but the Dragon Slayer's performance. Oh! The Demon Lord and his servants are being expelled. His Highness saved us all. Hooray! We're safe now. Thank you, Your Highness. Your Highness, there's no need to rush and change everything.
Lily thought with a smile, staring down at Jalal as he was sucked up into the anima, along with all of the other exceed.
It's fine to take things at your own pace.
Even if it's a simple walk, people will continue to take steps forward. You're all headed toward the future together. Bye-bye, fairy tale.
Lucy exclaimed as she energetically waved toward the members of Edo Fairy Tale. Everyone in Edo Fairy Tale joined in seeing off their Earthland counterparts, shouting their goodbyes with smiles and tears.
I mean, the other fairy tale. Good luck. Just stick together and everything will work out. Farewell, Lily, Gadjiel, Fairy Tale, Wendy, and Pinky.
Jalal thought, doing his best to fight back tears as he watched all of his friends from Earthland disappear into the anima, knowing he would likely never see any of them ever again. After taking a breath to compose himself, Jalal turned toward the crowd of citizens gathered around him, hoisting his staff high into the air.
I have defeated the demon Lord Dragneel. Even though we lack magical power, we humans will continue on.
Instantly, the crowd erupted to deafening cheers and applause, each of them fully backing their new leader. The Dragon Slayer's performance had worked perfectly. Jalal was now the hero who had vanquished the villains who had attempted to destroy Idolos. Though the road ahead would definitely be filled with many hardships, the people of Idolos knew they had a good leader to guide them. Slightly separated from the main crowd were the members of Edo Fairy Tale, each of them appearing to be uneasy about what their future entailed. They all talked and muttered amongst themselves, attempting to discuss what they should do now that they no longer had access to any magical power. Toward the back of the group were Natsu Dragaon and Lucy Ashley, but unlike the other members of Edo Fairy Tale, the two of them seemed to be in slightly higher spirits. They talked about their Earthland counterparts and the wild adventure they had just been on.
However, as Dragaon and Ashley talked, they noticed that hush suddenly came over the rest of the group and the crowd began to separate.
A lone figure could be seen walking through the Edo Fairy Tale members. Once this newcomer reached Dragaon and Ashley, both of their eyes widened in surprise.
You've got a lot of fucking nerve showing your face here. Ashley growled as she glared fiercely at Urza Nightwalker, reaching over and gripping Dragon's sleeve. What the hell do you want? Hold on a sec, Lucy, take a breath and calm down. Dragaon said, holding his arm in front of Ashley, which caught her off guard.
At first, Dragaon was upset just like Ashley, but when he saw the look in Nightwalker's eyes, his anger quickly waned. Nightwalker's eyes were full of remorse, and her usually stoic and confident demeanor was instead nervous.
Urza, it's been a long time, what are you doing here? Natsu, Lucy.
Urza said in an uncharacteristically quiet voice, nervously gripping her arm as she fought the urge to lower her head and run away.
We need to talk. Back in Earthland. Whoa shit. Natsu exclaimed as he was violently spit out of the anima, rapidly hurtling toward the ground below.
Quickly scanning around, the pink-haired Dragon Slayer noticed that it was raining quite heavily and that his friends were also falling with him.
Without a second thought, Natsu's legs became engulfed in flames as he began to fly through the air.
In a matter of seconds, he managed to scoop up all of his friends and safely set them down on the ground.
Phew, looks like we're back. Is everyone okay? I'm good.
Lucy replied, letting out a relieved sigh as she let the cool rain fall onto her.
It's so good to be back in Earthland. Nice job getting us down safely, Natsu.
Urza said with a smile as she patted the top of the pink-haired Dragon Slayer's head, causing his face to flush slightly.
Now, where did that anima send us? Looks like we're just outside Magnolia. Gray said, standing at the edge of a nearby cliff that overlooked the town. Looks like the guild is back to normal. We can't start celebrating just yet.
Urza said as she crossed her arms underneath her chest. We have to make sure everyone made it back safely.
They're fine.
Natsu and his group were caught off guard when a large group of Exceeds suddenly descended all around them.
The flying cats seemed to be in quite a cheerful mood as they zipped all around.
We got to Earthland ahead of you all.
We flew all over the place. Fairy Tale and everyone in Magnolia are just fine.
It seems like none of them even realized they had been turned into Lacrima.
Golly, Earthland is amazing. It's absolutely overflowing with magic. How? Carla muttered in shock as she stared dumbfounded at the Exceed circling all around them. How'd the Exceed end up in Earthland too? Letting out a frustrated huff, Carla angrily gestured toward the group of Exceed.
This is no time to be playing around.
These guys are dangerous. We should send them all back to Idolas. Let's just calm down and take a breath, Carla.
Happy as he attempted to quell the white-furred cat's anger.
There's no need to get so upset. Happy is right, Carla. Wendy said, crouching down next to her white-furred companion. Remember, Extalia is gone now. So, let's just leave them be. No way.
Carla snapped without hesitation, which caused the other Exceed, including Shagat, to stop messing around, a look of guilt in their eyes. After all the trouble they caused us, they don't deserve to be forgiven so easily.
One by one, each of the Exceeds stepped forward and lowered their heads. What's this? We apologize for throwing stones at you. We cannot express how sorry we are for how we acted. Our home is gone, we have nowhere to return to. Please, have some mercy. We're going to mend our ways. So, please forgive us.
I don't care about any of that. Carla exclaimed, causing the other Exceed to flinch away from her harsh tone. You sent Happy and me to Earthland with a mission to kill off the dragon slayers.
That's right. The queen stole our eggs.
Lucky shouted from the back of the crowd of Exceed, angrily shaking his fist.
Don't you dare tell me you've all forgotten.
Oh my, it appears as if we still haven't explained ourselves well enough. One of the Exceed elders said as he stepped forward, leaning against his cane.
This is a tale from several years ago.
I believe we already told you about Shagat's ability to see the future. The other elder continued, clasping his hands behind his back. One day, Shagat was assaulted with images of Extalia crashing to the ground. After what just happened, it's clear that was the result of Idolas losing all of its magical power.
But
at the time, we believed that it would be caused by an attack from the humans.
We realized that even if we went to war with the humans, we could never win against them.
So, we devised a plan to allow 100 children to escape from Idolas. The first elder explained, which caused Lucky to growl in frustration.
We kept this a secret from the citizens of Extalia.
But, the official story was that they were being sent to destroy devils called dragon slayers in a different world. Of course, we had no real grudges against the dragon slayers.
I think I understand.
Wendy said as she slowly nodded her head, doing her best to follow along with the elder's retelling of the events.
You just needed a believable story.
And if you had spoken the truth, it would have likely caused a panic.
Yes, that's the unfortunate truth.
The second elder said before releasing a heavy sigh as he lowered his gaze.
We borrowed the humans' anima and our plan succeeded. However, there was one thing we could never have accounted for.
That was your powers, Carla. Shagat finally spoke up, which caused Carla's eyes to widen slightly. You have the same power of clairvoyance as I do. But, since it activated while you were unconscious, it ended up jumbling your memories. It's likely you saw bits and pieces of the future of Idolas. And you probably mistook those visions as your mission.
It can't be.
Carla muttered, pressing a paw against her forehead as her eyes narrowed a bit.
They were so vivid, they couldn't be. If what Carla saw was wrong.
Happy said as he raised his paw, getting Shagat's attention.
Then, what about the rest of the Exceed?
There was never such a mission. Shagat replied, slowly shaking her head as Carla felt a chill run down her spine. It was truly one terrible misfortune after another, but, you ended up creating your own imaginary mission. We thought that it would be better for you not to know about your own powers. Naughty chimed in as he still vigorously pumped his fist. We said all those awful things to manipulate you, and for that, I humbly apologize. It was all an ill-conceived ploy to display the majesty of the queen. Nichia added, taking off his cap and bowing his head slightly. I truly apologize. The ruse I used to confront the misfortune facing both my people and the humans caused you all so much suffering. Shagat said as she stared at her feet and nervously wrung her paws together. No. That's not all, it also caused great suffering to all the families who had their eggs seized. All the other Rixid had fallen silent, soaking in what their queen had just revealed. That's why I've surrendered my sword to you. It is not all the Exceed who are evil, it is only me. That's not true, Your Majesty. Everything you did, you had all of us in mind. We're to blame as well. We were cocky and overconfident. Now that we're in Earthland, let's find all the children who escaped years ago. That's right. We've got a new goal. This time, we'll get along with humans. It's a new beginning for all of us. Everyone. Shagat said, sniffling several times as she felt a few tears fall from her eyes. All around Shagat, the other Exceed were smiling and happily flying back and forth. You're all so strong, stronger than I ever was. Heh, look at that. Natsu said with a grin as he watched the Exceed soar around and try to cheer up their queen. They sure are an optimistic bunch. Fine, you win. Carla relented, releasing a light sigh as she crossed her arms. I'll let it go. A visible wave of relief washed over Shagat as she placed a paw over her heart and let out a deep breath. But, it makes me wonder, why do I have the same powers as you? Why yeah, it's quite strange. Shagat as she coughed into her paw and averted her gaze. Carla is smart, but is quite naive. She is still a child though. Hey, mister. Happy said, walking up to Lucky as he gazed between Carla and Shagat several times. Don't Carla and Her Majesty resemble each other? Lucky hummed and nodded his head. I mean, the way they move. Happy leaned in a bit closer and examined Carla, with Lucky mimicking his movements. And the way they look, it's uncanny. Kahh. Lucky scoffed as he crossed his arms. Nah, you're imagining things. I'm glad everything worked out. Natsu said as he breathed a sigh of relief, deciding not to point out the obvious to Carla and Happy. Would have hated to have trouble as soon as we got back home. Thank you, everyone. Shagat said, bowing her head to the members of Fairy Tale. For now, we're thinking of settling down in this area. That's great to hear. Wendy said with a smile as she patted the top of Carla's head. We can visit you anytime. You're acting quite strange, Wendy. Carla said, quirking an eyebrow as she gazed up at the blue-haired dragon slayer. Why do you look so happy? She's right. Shagat said as she pulled Carla in for a tight hug, surprising the young Exceed. You can come see us anytime, Carla. Hold on, eh? Carla started to protest but quickly gave up when she was overwhelmed by a comforting, and oddly familiar, warmth. It's odd, I feel so safe in her arms. You too, Happy. Marl said, gripping the blue-furred Exceed's paws. Come over and play anytime you want. Kahh. Nonsense. Lucky barked as he stomped his foot. You don't have to come. You know. Happy said, looking between Lucky and Marl. I really like your smells, ma'am, I wonder why that is? Happy cocked his head when he saw tears begin to fall from Lucky and Marl's eyes. Did I say something weird? Kahh. That's enough out of you. Lucky shouted as he began to chase Happy around half-heartedly. You're 100 years too early to be smelling us. After a few more minutes of mingling, one by one the Exceed took to the sky and said their goodbyes. The members of Fairy Tale all waved to their new, furry friends as they flew further and further away. After a prolonged and emotional farewell, the Exceed began to fly off. I have to ask. Lucky said, flying up next to Shagat. Why didn't you tell Carla that you're her mother?
You don't think I wanted to?
Shagat replied as he glanced back, seeing Carla being held in Wendy's arms.
But I don't have the right to do that, not until we find every lost child.
Come to think of it, why didn't you say anything?
Kahh. Don't make me laugh.
Lucky yelled, angrily shaking his fist.
There's no way that blue-furred brat could be my kid.
There's nothing to worry about, dear. Marl said as she held Shagat and helped her fly through the air.
We can see them whenever we want after all.
But, I'm surprised your daughter was among the eggs that were sent off.
Queen is merely my title.
Shagat said, gazing up just as the exceed burst out above the rain clouds into the clear skies.
Every parent thinks their child is the most precious thing in the world and will do anything to keep them safe.
Well, we should get back to the guild,
Natsu said as the exceed finally disappeared out of sight. I bet everyone is wondering where we are.
But, how the hell are we gonna explain what happened?
Lucy asked, rubbing the back of her neck. I mean, it's gonna be hard for anyone to believe.
I don't think we'll have to worry about that, Gray replied as he rested his hands on his hips.
Nobody should have noticed anything that happened, right?
That's true, but we'll have to explain our injuries, Urza said, gazing down at the bandages covering her arms.
And people will notice that Mistigan is gone.
Bah, forget all that shit, Gadgil exclaimed as he excitedly began to search the area.
Where's Lily? I don't see Panther Lily anywhere. Don't even tell me he ran off with the other cats.
If you're looking for me, I'm right over here, a familiar voice spoke up from behind the fairy tale members. Whipping around, the sight Gadgil and the others saw shocked them. Instead of his usual tall and muscular appearance, Lily more closely resembled Happy and Carla, much smaller and cuter.
The now much shorter Exceed also appeared to be holding onto a rope.
It is I, Panther Lily.
He's a lot smaller than I remembered,
Wendy said with a chuckle as she crouched down in front of Lily.
But he is cuter now.
Yes, it appears that Earthland messed with my body's constitution,
Lily said, staring down at his now significantly smaller paw. It is an odd feeling.
Raising his arm, Lily pointed at the members of Fairy Tale. I wish to join the guild that His Highness was helping out.
As promised, you'd better let me join, Gadgil.
Of course. Gadgil yelled in excitement as he rushed forward and hugged Lily tightly, surprising the other Fairy Tale members with his uncharacteristic showing of affection.
My own cat. Hee. Hold your relation for a moment,
Lily said, managing to wriggle himself free and tugging on the rope he held. I managed to capture a suspicious-looking person.
With another pull, the sounds of someone tripping around in the bushes could be heard. Come on out now. Hold on a second. Natsu's breath immediately hitched when he heard the unmistakable voice. I'm not really anyone suspicious.
As the person drew closer, Natsu sniffed the air several times, finally picking up an unforgettable scent that had been masked by the rain. Then, with one last tug, all the members of Fairy Tale were shocked to see Lysana Strauss stumble to the ground in front of them.
I'm a member of Fairy Tale too. Lysana. Natsu breathed out, rubbing his eyes and even pinching Wis's arm. Is this really happening? What's up with this cat? Lysana asked in a frustrated tone as she fussed with the ropes binding her wrists. Is it an Exceed? And who the hell are you? Gadgil barked, glaring at Lysana as he tried to intimidate her. You pickin' a fight with my cat? We gonna have a problem. It can't be. Gray muttered as he stared at Lysana in wide-eyed shock. I have to be seeing things. Lysana,
Urza said, feeling her heart pounding in her chest.
Is it really you? I don't understand.
Carla said as she stroked her chin.
Could this be Idola's Lysana? That's not quite right,
Lysana said, slowly getting onto her feet. It was then that she finally locked eyes with Natsu, a small smile spreading across her face.
Hey, Natsu.
Walking over, Lysana embraced the pink-haired dragon slayer in a tight hug, resting her head against his chest.
Sorry for running away when we first met back in Idolos. But now, we can have a proper reunion. I finally get to see my Natsu again.
Turning around, Lysana picked up Happy and hugged the blue-furred cat as well.
It's so good to see you too, Happy. When Lysana finally released Natsu and Happy, she turned toward Gray and Urza.
It's been so long, Gray, Urza, I'm so glad to see you both again.
Next, Lysana turned toward Lucy and Wendy. And you two must be newer guild members, right? Wow, it's Lucy and a little Wendy. So cool. Wait a second. Gray said as he raised a trembling hand and pointed at Lysana. Why you couldn't be, are you Earthland's Lysana? Yeah, I am. Lysana replied, shocking everyone except Natsu. I'm sorry for not saying anything sooner. I'm still a bit confused.
Urza said in a befuddled tone as she did her best to comprehend what was happening.
Everyone thought you died 2 years ago. That's not exactly what happened, I didn't die or anything like that.
Lysana explained, hanging her head a bit as she clenched her hands together. 2 years ago, while out on a job with Miraneh and Elfniken, I lost consciousness. And while I was out, I was probably sucked up by an anima that was over the area. If I had to guess, there were several smaller anima all over Earthland at that time.
I eventually stumbled across Fairy Tail and Idolos. Everyone's vibes were a little off, but they all seemed to know me.
They all seemed to believe that I was the Lysana from Idolos. I figured that the Lysana in Idolos was probably already dead. At least that's what I gathered from the guild's reactions when I showed up. And after seeing how happy Edo, Miraneh and Elfniken were, there was no way I could tell them the truth. So, I pretended to be their Lysana.
That's unbelievable.
Lucy said as she clasped a hand over her heart.
It's almost like the anima was trying to replace something that Idolos had lost. I thought the same thing.
Lysana agreed, pausing for a moment to wipe a mix of tears and rain from her eyes. I was a bit confused at first, but I soon began to match everyone's pace. And after hiding my magic, I got used to life in Idolos.
But after 2 years?
A sad smile formed on Lysana's face as she gazed at Natsu.
You and Happy showed up.
I'm so sorry I didn't tell you both the truth, but I just couldn't.
I didn't want to make Miraneh and everyone else sad again. I couldn't put them through losing me a second time.
So, I decided to bear the pain and live out the rest of my life in Idolos.
Natsu said as he simply stood there and soaked in everything Lysana was saying.
She went through so much in the 2 years she was gone.
However, when all the magical power in Idolos was sucked up by the anima, including me since I was originally from Earthland. Lysana continued, sniffling a few times as she desperately fought back tears. It turns out, the Idolos Miraneh and Elfniken knew I wasn't their Lysana the whole time. They wanted me to go back to Earthland and be with my original family. Natsu silently approached Lysana and gently removed the ropes binding her wrists. Gripping Lysana's hands, Natsu locked eyes with her and smiled. I understand why you did what you did, Lysana, and you don't need to apologize for that. I can't put into words how happy I am that you're back. Lysana felt a comforting warmth wash over her as Natsu gave her hands a quick squeeze. And as much as I would love to spend all day catching up, there are other, more important people you should see first. 10 minutes later, Cardia Cathedral. Nachon, we should probably get going. Elfman said in a somber tone, holding up an umbrella to cover his sister and himself as they both stood before Lysana's grave. It's cold out, you're gonna get sick. Please, just a little longer. Mira Jane said barely above a whisper as she crouched down and reached out, running her fingers across her little sister's gravestone. I just need a few more minutes with her. The rain continued to heavily pour over the mourning siblings, neither of them seeming to be bothered by the poor weather. However, just as Mira Jane was about to stand back up, she perked up a bit when her newly enhanced hearing caught the sounds of someone running through the rain toward them. But the running wasn't what got Mira Jane's attention. No. What caused her breath to hitch was when the person coming toward them began to call out. Miraneh. Elfniken. Mira Jane's entire body went rigid when she heard this.
There was no way she could forget such an angelic voice. The voice of her little sister, Lisanna. For several moments Mira Jane was motionless, unable to turn around and possibly have her heart broken. But, after hearing her name called out once again, Mira Jane finally mustered up the courage to turn around. What she saw caused her heart to skip a beat. Less than 20 feet away stood her little sister, Lisanna. Both Mira Jane and Elfman were too stunned to speak, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. Their little sister, who they believed had died 2 years earlier, now stood in front of them.
Elfman was so shocked that he ended up dropping the umbrella he had been holding.
It was then that Mira Jane noticed Natsu and several other fairy tale members standing just behind Lisanna. Seeing the smiles on all of their faces confirmed to Mira Jane that what she was seeing was real.
Lisanna truly was there in front of them.
With a bright smile and tears streaming down her cheeks, Lisanna ran toward her brother and sister.
I don't believe it.
Mira Jane muttered in a trembling voice, feeling tears instantly forming in her eyes.
Lisanna was now only a few steps away and the reality of what was happening finally slammed into Mira Jane and Elfman.
Both siblings were bawling their eyes out, seeing their little sister for the first time in 2 years.
Lisanna. I'm home.
Lisanna said as she leapt toward Mira Jane, wrapping her arms around her older sister. She hugged Mira Jane close, almost as if her life depended on it. Elfman hesitated for several moments, but soon embraced both of his sisters, enveloping them both in a loving bear hug.
I'm so happy to be home, I love you both. Welcome home.
Mira Jane said with a bright and loving smile, holding onto her little sister tightly.
As Mira Jane continued to bask in the overwhelming joy of Lisanna's return, she eventually caught Natsu's gaze.
The pink-haired dragon slayer merely grinned and gave her a thumbs up. I don't know what happened, but I do know you helped Lisanna come back to us, Natsu. I can never thank you enough, Natsu, I love you with all my heart. Several hours later, Fairy Hill's dormitory. After a lengthy and lively discussion with the rest of the guild about their adventures in Idolas, and Lisanna's unexpected return, Wendy returned to her dorm room. She released a light sigh as she closed the door behind her. After kicking off her shoes, Wendy trudged to her room and plopped onto her bed in exhaustion. It had been decided that Fairy Tale would throw a massive party tomorrow to celebrate Lisanna's return. In addition, they'd also be celebrating her birthday as well. Tomorrow's my birthday, and at least when it comes to dragon slayers, I'll be considered an adult, and that will start. Wendy said as she felt her entire body start to heat up as her mind began to wander to thoughts of a certain pink-haired dragon slayer. Reaching down, Wendy began to massage her budding breasts, a soft moan escaping her lips.
Natsu, more, please don't stop.
A pleasurable tingle ran through Wendy as her other hand slipped inside her panties and she began to play with herself. Her thoughts became more and more lewd as she imagined Natsu pinning her down and claiming her as his mate, forcing her to bear his children. As Wendy's movements quickened, she bit her bottom lip as she was hit with a powerful orgasm, her entire body trembling. Pulling her hand from her panties, Wendy stared at her fingers, coated in her own juices. The scent was overpowering and arousing, making Wendy a little lightheaded. After a few moments, Wendy began to lick her fingers clean.
Tomorrow is the big day. Wendy muttered, staring up at the ceiling. Natsu, I hope you accept me as your mate. Chapter 59 Mating Dragons. The following afternoon, Fairy Tale Guild Hall.
The festivities were in full swing within the guild hall, with the sounds of music and laughter filling the halls. Booze were pouring freely as Fairy Tale members downed pint after pint, cheering and dancing on tables. The two ladies of the hour, Wendy and Lisanna, were sat at a table in the center of the guild, with everyone else celebrating around them. Both girls seemed a little uncomfortable being the center of so much attention but allowed their friends to shower them with their affection. The guild hall may have changed a bit, but everyone in it is the same. Lisanna said with a smile as she gazed around the room, seeing the lively and cheerful guild she had grown up in.
Just then, Mira Jane walked past, setting down a tray full of drinks.
But, you've definitely changed, Mirane.
Your entire vibe is different. You think so?
Mira Jane asked with a smile, tucking her empty tray underneath her arm. I don't think I've changed that much.
You're joking, right? You're like a completely different person.
Lisanna said with a chuckle as she gestured toward her older sister's entire body. Your wardrobe and attitude are like a polar opposite to how you used to be. Your hair too, what's with the pink streaks? And I could have sworn I saw a tattoo or something on your shoulder earlier.
Oh, those.
Mira Jane stammered nervously, reaching up and twirling a few strands of pink hair around her fingers.
I'll tell you about them later.
Oak away. Lisanna said in a confused tone as she quirked an eyebrow, easily noticing how uneasy her older sister seemed to be. Her new attitude is one thing, but I've never seen Mireille acting like that.
She's definitely hiding something. Ha 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 ha. Lisanna is back. And it's Wendy's birthday.
Makarov exclaimed as he stood atop the bar, raising 2 mugs of beer above his head.
Listen up, everyone. There will be no jobs today. It's a day to celebrate. So eat. Drink. Have fun. The entire guild erupted into deafening cheers after Makarov's announcement.
Downing one of his beer mugs, Makarov began to scan around the guild.
Where's Kana? I want to have a drinking contest. Today's the day I beat you. It's a happy day, baby.
Bixlow said, his tongue sticking out as his wooden dolls levitated all around him.
The guild hasn't been crazy in a while. Ha ha.
It truly is a relief that you're all right, Lisanna. Fried said with a small smile as he patted Lisanna and Wendy's heads.
And a very happy birthday to you, Wendy. Wow, the Reijinchu.
Lisanna said in a surprised tone, looking at the 3 members of the Thunder God tribe. It's rare to see you guys at the guild. Maybe in the past, but not anymore. Evergreen said with a smirk as she suddenly performed an exaggerated dance, waving around a hand fan.
After all, I'm the guild's resident fairy.
Looks like Mira Jane isn't the only whose style changed. Lucy commented, noticing Evergreen's new, flowing hairstyle. Hearing a melancholy sigh, Lucy turned around and saw Juvia sitting alone at the table behind her. The blue-haired woman had a conflicted look in her eyes as she rested her head on her palm.
What's up, Juvia? You look pretty down. Juvia's heart is being pulled in so many different directions.
Juvia replied as she let out another heavy sigh, now laying her head down on the table itself.
Happy told Juvia that in Idolas, Gray-sama was the one who was in love with Juvia. I don't get it.
Lucy said, switching tables and sitting across from Juvia.
Shouldn't that make you happy?
It does, but not as much as Juvia would have thought.
And that's what is confusing Juvia.
The blue-haired water mage muttered as she idly tapped her fingers on the top of the table. As Juvia continued to wallow in her love-stricken confusion, her wandering eyes soon caught Natsu dancing with Wakaba and Macau across the guild. Seeing the pink-haired dragon slayer laughing and smiling brightly caused Juvia to perk up a bit, feeling her heart start beating faster.
Juvia doesn't know what to think anymore. Ah, I see what the problem is.
Lucy thought, giving the blue-haired water mage a sympathetic look as she watched her look between Gray and Natsu several times.
Juvia's heart is torn.
She feels like she's in love with Gray, but Natsu has wormed his way into her heart as well.
Gotta say I feel bad for her, that has to be tough.
I hope you figure out what your heart truly wants, Juvia.
Ah ha ha ha.
Being home truly is best. Natsu bellowed out as he unleashed a stream of vibrant orange flames into the air, causing cheers and jeers from his fellow guild members.
Idolas was fun, but there's no place like home. And we've got Lisanna back too. Things couldn't be better. He's as rowdy and noisy as ever.
Jet said with a smile, watching as Natsu leaped on top of a table and put on a small performance with his electricity.
Was the Natsu in Idolas like this too?
Heh, no way.
Lisanna chuckled as she waved dismissively. He'd be like, oh no, I got bullied by Lucy. Someone help me. He was the polar opposite of our Natsu. Ha! I'd pay good money to see that. Droy laughed, slapping his hand onto his knee. Damn, I really missed out. Idolos sounded like it was wild. This sure is a noisy guild. Lily muttered as he stood just outside the party, with Carla and Happy joining him as well. Do you ever get used to it? Everyone has the same first impression, Carla said, pinching the bridge of her nose. And yes, you do get used to it after a while. It's a fun place. Happy cheered in between bites of a fish he was munching on. I'm sure you'll love it here. I still can't wrap my head around it, Lily said, watching in amazement as magic was freely used by people within the guild. So, you're telling me every single person here has internal magic? That is correct. Lily was surprised when Urza suddenly appeared next to him, resting her hands on her hips. That's how it is with Earthland mages. But, what's important isn't the magic itself, but the hearts and feelings of those who wield it. Don't you agree, Lily? Heh, you're right, Lily said with a small smile, locking eyes with the scarlet-haired knight. I worked closely with Urza Nightwalker back in Idolos. You may be a different person, but it's nice to have a familiar face around. Oi! Salamander! Little shrimp! Gadjil exclaimed in excitement as he suddenly leaped up from the table he was sitting at. Let's have a death battle between my Lily and your blue and white cats. Gee hee. Even though it's your birthday, you're still getting roped into their nonsense, Lucy said in an amused tone, reaching over and sympathetically patting Wendy's shoulder. Looks like you don't even get a day off. It's fine, I don't mind, Wendy stuttered out as her face began to flush red. The blue-haired dragon slayer was focused solely on Natsu, acutely watching his every movement. Soon, she could feel her heart starting to race in her chest. Damn it, I think it's starting already. I have to hold out, at least until the party is over. I don't know about the cats, Natsu said with a wide grin, raising his fists and squaring up with Gadjil. But I'll throw down with you any time. Don't get me involved, Happy said as he stopped nibbling on his fish for a moment, feeling a chill run down his spine. I'd lose in no time. How disappointing, Carla teased with a smirk, causing Happy's head to snap toward her. You're giving up before you've even tried. Stop it, I may look like this now, but in Idolos I commanded my own division of soldiers, Lily said as he raised his paw, stepping in between Happy and Carla. If you engage in a pointless fight, you'll only end up getting hurt. Well, this is a nice change of pace, Urza said, watching as a fistfight broke out between Gadjil and Natsu. You're more mature than I expected. Possibly, Lily said as he witnessed Gadjil get thrown into a table, releasing a light sigh. But I think it's more so that they're just childish. Turning around, Lily extended his paw toward the other to accede. Anyway, let's get along, Happy, Carla. Happy exclaimed cheerfully, gripping Lily's paw with both of his own and shaking it genetically. You're all right, Lily. Want to share a fish? Humph, at least you aren't as annoying as Happy, Carla huffed as she shook Lily's paw as well. Hearing a sudden crash, Carla groaned when she saw that the fight between Natsu and Gadjil had intensified, even gaining a few additional members. Why are those idiots fighting, when it was supposedly going to be between us? And they even dragged in Gray and Elfman. Muscles, sweaty body, his hot and electric touch. Wendy thought, watching Natsu battle it out with his fellow guild members. She couldn't take her eyes off him, noticing every little flex of his impressive muscles. Wendy could feel her body getting hotter, sweat even forming on her brow. With every minute that passed, she could feel her draconic instincts growing more powerful. I need it. I need him to pin me down. I need him to claim me. Wendy, are you all right? Lucy asked in a concerned tone as she noticed that Wendy was starting to pant, her entire upper body flushing red. You don't look so dash. I am fine. I just need some fresh air, Wendy exclaimed, suddenly shooting up from her seat and beelining toward the guild's exit. Now outside, Wendy let out a deep exhale as she leaned against the guild's wall, resisting the overwhelming urge to touch herself. Just hold on. Just hold on. Just hold a bit longer, damn it. Looks like things were getting a bit too exciting for little Wendy.
Makarov said with a small smile as he sat on the bar, with Gildart standing beside him.
This part sure is lively, but it's a shame Mistigan couldn't be here. I can only hope things are going all right for him and Idolas. I'm sure he's doing just fine.
Gildart said, leaning against the bar next to Makarov as he watched the brawl in the guild escalate even further.
He grew up in this guild after all. I bet he's still in high spirits. I bet you're right.
Makarov said as he crossed his arms, a big grin spreading across his face.
So, you gonna be staying in town for a while? I wonder.
Gildart said with a sly smile, reaching behind the bar and pulling out a bottle of booze.
I could use a little R&R. Well, let's start that right now. This part isn't just to celebrate Lisana's return.
Makarov cheered as he hopped off the bar, using his magic to enlarge his body and tower over everyone else in the guild.
Alright, listen here you brats.
Instantly, all the fighting stopped, everyone turning their attention toward the massive guild leader.
I know you're all having fun, but I think it's time we celebrate our newest member's birthday.
Everyone in the guild let out a roarish cheer as a large, multi-layered birthday cake was wheeled out by Mira Jane.
Now, where's the birthday girl?
Here. Wendy sheepishly said, reappearing back inside the guild as she walked over and sat back down at the center table.
Sorry about that, I'm not used to all this attention, just need to catch my breath. It's okay, Wendy. Urza said with a reassuring smile as she patted the blue-haired dragon slayer's shoulder. Our guild can be a bit overwhelming at times. That's an understatement. Lucy chuckled, watching as Elfman picked up the huge cake and set it down in front of Wendy. This place has been a madhouse all day. Damn, could you guys have gotten a bigger cake?
Gray teased as he let out a low whistle, admiring the delicious-looking baked good. The cake was decorated with blue and green frosting, with dozens of unlit candles scattered across the stacked layers.
I know everyone needs a piece, but this fucking thing is as big as Wendy. Ha. This is fairy tale, Ice Princess. Go big, or go home.
Natsu cheered, playfully patting Wendy's back, which caused her to yelp in surprise. Quickly lowering her head, Wendy did her best to hide her flushed face.
Don't worry, I'll light the candles. Don't you think someone else should do it?
Dajil asked with a smirk as he pulled himself out of the ruined table Natsu had slammed him through.
Salamander is probably gonna melt the whole damn cake. I would say let's go for round 2, but this is Wendy's moment and I don't want to ruin it. But, after today, name the time and place, I'll whoop your ass anytime. Natsu said, shooting the Iron Dragon Slayer an annoyed look. Holding up his index finger, Natsu lit a small flame on the end of it. I know it's hard to believe, but I can show restraint sometimes.
Moving around the cake, Natsu meticulously lit every candle, a large grin on his face.
Alright, Wendy. You're all set. Thank you, Natsu.
Wendy said with a forced smile as she felt her heart thundering in her chest, her entire body heating up.
Pin me down. Mount me. Breed me.
I will bear strong children for us. With her draconic instincts starting to flare up, Wendy rapidly shook her head in an attempt to rid her mind of obscene thoughts.
No. Not yet. Get a hold of yourself, Wendy. Just make it through the day. Okay, everyone, gather around.
Makarov announced, shrinking himself down and hopping onto the table Wendy was sitting at. We're all going to sing happy birthday. In no time flat, Wendy's table was surrounded by everyone in the guild, all of them appearing eager to wish her a happy birthday. Wendy's face flushed slightly because of all the attention she was receiving.
Despite the embarrassment, a smile spread across the blue-haired dragon slayer's face.
It made her heart swell with happiness, being surrounded by people who cared so much for her. After losing her family at Kate's shelter, she managed to find a new one who loved her just as much.
Alright, everyone.
Natsu exclaimed as he popped up behind Wendy, putting his hands on her shoulders. When the blue-haired dragon slayer glanced back at him, he flashed her a large grin. However, he was surprised when she squeaked in surprise and quickly turned back around. Shrugging it off as Wendy just being shy, Natsu gave her shoulders a reassuring squeeze.
Let's do this. From the top.
Everyone gathered around Wendy smiled before they all spoke simultaneously.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Wendy. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
Happy cheered, leaping into the air and floating in front of Wendy.
Everyone else let out a cheer in agreement. Now make a wish and blow out the candles. A wish? What do I even want to wish for?
Wendy thought as she stared at the flickering candles adorning her cake. She thought about it for a few moments, eventually coming up with a wish she thought was appropriate. I wish that all the dragon slayers would get to see their dragons again.
Even if it's just for a few moments.
If they have to leave, I want to give Grandini a proper goodbye.
And I want Natsu and Gajeel to see their dragons again.
Satisfied with her wish, Wendy inhaled, ready to blow out her candles. However, just as she was ready to exhale, Wendy felt Natsu's thumb brush against her neck. Instantly, she felt a tingling sensation and slight warmth that sent a pleasurable shock through her body. Wendy was so caught off guard by this that she wasn't able to control herself when she breathed out, accidentally using some of her Sky Dragon Slayer magic. A small burst of wind blasted from Wendy's mouth and hit the cake, blowing it to pieces. Everyone around the table was coated in frosting and chunks of the destroyed cake.
Oh my gosh!
Wendy gasped, her eyes shooting open in shock as she gazed at her cake-covered guildmates. Her face burned near neon red as she instantly bowed her head. The blue-haired dragon slayer was so embarrassed that she was on the verge of tears.
I don't know what happened. I just lost control for a second and ruined the cake. I'm so sorry, everyone. Bah!
What are you apologizing for? Gajeel asked with a smirk as he scooped a piece of cake and frosting off his cheek and ate it.
This is a damn good cake. It's no strawberry cake,
Urza said, plucking some cake off her armor and plopping it into her mouth.
But it is quite good. No need to be upset, Wendy.
Mira Jane said with a sweet smile as she gestured toward where the cake had originally been. Only the top few layers were blown away.
The bottom of the cake is still fine.
The white-haired barmaid giggled when she saw that everyone was picking cake off themselves and eating it.
But it looks like everyone is enjoying the cake anyway. Myra's right.
Lucy said, cleaning the frosting that had coated her celestial gate keys.
It's your birthday, Wendy. This whole party is for you and Lisanna. There's no need to apologize for anything. So, let's just enjoy the cake, what's left of it. And you can't enjoy cake without ice cream,
Gray said as he stripped out of his frosting-covered clothes, leaving him in only his boxers.
I'll go get some.
Well, that sure was unexpected, definitely lived this party up, Natsu said with a smile, before shaking his head in an attempt to get the cake and frosting out of his hair.
So, what did you wish for, Wendy?
I should have known none of them would be upset, Wendy thought as she raised her head, a bright smile on her face as she wiped the tears that had formed in the corners of her eyes.
Can't tell you what my wish is, or else it won't come true. Several hours later, Natsu's home.
Man, that was a fun party. Lisanna is back and it was Wendy's birthday, Natsu said, releasing a content sigh as he stepped out of his shower. After drying himself off, the pink-haired dragon slayer got dressed and hopped into his hammock. Weird not having Happy here, but he insisted on spending time with Lily and Carla. Glad there's more Exceed here for him to hang with. I'm sure it was lonely for him being the only one for so long. Clasping his hands behind his head, Natsu stared up at the ceiling.
Wendy was acting kind of odd.
And I've never seen her lose control of her magic like that before. I wonder if she's not feeling well. Guess I'll check on her tomorrow. However, just as Natsu closed his eyes, he heard a few soft knocks at his front door. Letting out an annoyed groan, the pink-haired dragon slayer rolled out of his hammock. Suppressing a yawn, Natsu scratched his stomach as he made his way toward the door. He was ready to chew out whoever was bothering him so late. However, when Natsu pulled his door open, he was surprised to see who was standing outside his home.
Wendy? Natsu asked in a confused tone as he quirked an eyebrow, the blue-haired dragon slayer being the last person he expected to see. It's late, what are you doing here? Is something up? Can I come in?
Wendy muttered, looking down at her feet as she nervously fidgeted.
We need to talk about something. Oh, sure thing, Wendy.
Natsu said as he stepped aside, letting the blue-haired dragon slayer walk past him into his home.
Do you want anything to drink? No, I'm fine.
Wendy said, walking across the room as she kept her back toward Natsu.
I just need to see you. Really? What's up, Wendy? You're starting to worry me.
Natsu said as he closed the door and approached the blue-haired dragon slayer. However, as Natsu got closer to Wendy, he picked up a strange scent.
He sniffed the air several times, wrinkling his nose as he did.
It was an odd smell, but he didn't hate it. In fact, the more he breathed in the scent, he felt his body starting to heat up. Breathing a little heavier, Natsu pressed his palm to his forehead, surprised to feel sweat forming on his brow.
What the hell, I'm feeling a little lightheaded. You feeling alright, Wendy?
Wendy said nothing for several moments, seemingly muttering to herself as she kept her back to Natsu. Then, before Natsu could even react, Wendy whipped around and lunged toward him. The blue-haired dragon slayer latched onto Natsu, wrapping her legs around his waist and arms around his neck as she captured his lips in a fiery kiss. Natsu was completely caught off guard, stunned by the sheer intensity Wendy was kissing, almost as if she was desperate for his lips. After nearly a minute, Wendy eventually broke their lip lock, only because of the lack of oxygen. Both dragon slayers were panting heavily as they stared into each other's eyes, Natsu's wide open in shock.
Natsu, no. I need you to make me one of your mates. Are you serious?
Natsu asked, almost at a loss for words as he tried to comprehend what was happening.
This seems a little sudden, Wendy. It's not.
Wendy said as she shook her head, reaching down and cupping Natsu's cheek. Just like Lucy, Urza, and Mira Jane are your destined mates, you're my destined mate.
All day, I've been a complete mess.
Every time I looked at you, every time you touched me, my heart would pound like crazy and my entire body would feel like it was on fire. I had to stop myself from pouncing on you at the guild.
Wendy.
Natsu breathed out, seeing the worried look in the blue-haired dragon slayer's eyes. Feared that he would push her away. I'm sorry I didn't notice, my draconic instincts usually guide me toward potential mates. With everything that has been happening lately, I must have not noticed the pull.
It's the opposite for. My draconic instincts are screaming at me to take you as my mate. Ever since we reunited during the Nirvana incident, I've been hyper-aware of my body's desires.
I was able to keep in check for a while, but I can't hold back any longer. Wendy said as she cupped Natsu's face with both hands, before leaning in and licking his cheek.
Please, Natsu, make me one of your mates.
I was so jealous of Lucy and the others at first, but I don't care if I'm 4th or 100th anymore, I just need to be with you. How could I deny such a passionate confession?
Natsu said with a smirk, grabbing the back of Wendy's head and pulling her in for another kiss.
This one was slower and more loving as Natsu slid his tongue into Wendy's mouth. She moaned softly as his more experienced tongue wrapped around and dominated her own.
Both dragon slayers could feel their bodies heating up as they got into a rhythm.
This is a bit different than with the others. I wonder if it's because we're both dragon slayers?
It feels like I'm running on autopilot, almost like it's instinctual.
Reaching down and cupping Wendy's thighs, Natsu carried her over to the couch in his living where he gently laid her down.
As they continued their lip lock, Natsu's hands began to explore Wendy's body.
His touch sent pleasurable tingles throughout her entire body, causing her to moan into their kiss.
Eventually, Natsu's hands traced down Wendy's thigh, goosebumps forming along her skin.
When the pink-haired dragon slayer's hand eventually snaked back up Wendy's leg, he tugged at her panties. But, before Natsu went any further, he broke their kiss and looked into Wendy's eyes. Both dragon slayers were panting lightly as they simply stared into each other's eyes, their faces flushed slightly.
An unspoken conversation happened between them, neither of them breaking eye contact.
After a few moments, Wendy nodded her head, giving Natsu permission to keep going.
Now that he had consent to proceed, Natsu's hand snuck inside Wendy's panties. When his fingers brushed past Wendy's womanhood, she let out a brief gasp. Leaning in, Natsu began to kiss and suck at Wendy's neck as two of his fingers slipped inside her folds. The blue-haired dragon slayer bit her bottom lip to suppress a moan as Natsu's fingers wriggled around inside her. As Natsu continued to pleasure Wendy, he was surprised at how wet she already was. When Natsu's thumb began to tease Wendy's clit, she barely held back another moan. However, Natsu briefly paused when a peculiar scent hit his nose. It was the same scent he had smelled when Wendy first arrived at his home. Natsu felt his body starting to heat up, his breathing getting heavier. As he continued to breathe in the scent, he felt himself growing more and more aroused. Wendy! Natsu breathed out as he stopped kissing her neck and stared at the blue-haired dragon slayer with barely contained lust. Clothes off. Staring into Natsu's wild eyes, Wendy could tell that he was going to tear her clothes off if she didn't quickly oblige. So, she quickly unbuttoned her shirt and took it off, tossing it across the living room. Raising her hips, Natsu practically ripped her skirt and tights down her legs. Now dressed in only her underwear, Wendy's face flushed bright red as Natsu drank in her nearly naked body. But it wasn't enough for the lust-filled dragon slayer. Lose the underwear too. Wendy paused for a brief moment to prepare herself but soon reached back and unclasped her bra. Sliding the straps down her shoulders, Wendy took off her bra and revealed her budding breasts. Fighting back her embarrassment, Wendy raised her hips again and pulled down her panties, dropping them on the floor next to the couch. Natsu wasted no time, lunging forward and kissing Wendy's breast, his lips wrapping around her hardened nipple. Wendy was unable to hold back any longer, gripping the back of Natsu's head as she let out a lengthy moan. The blue-haired dragon slayer may not have had a bountiful, bouncy bosom like most of the women in fairy tale had, but her breasts were still very sensitive. As Natsu sucked and gently nibbled on Wendy's breast, his hand massaged the one his mouth wasn't latched onto. Natsu knew that Wendy was self-conscious about the size of her breasts and decided to give them extra attention. His tongue swirled around her erect nipple as he gently sucked on her breast. Wendy let out a soft moan as Natsu pinched and tugged on the nipple his mouth wasn't attached to. After several minutes of worshipping and playing with Wendy's breasts, the blue-haired dragon slayer was a panting, disheveled mess. Her body was covered in sweat and her face was flushed as she rested her arm against her forehead. She felt like she was floating, her entire body tingling. But Wendy barely had a moment to catch her breath as Natsu began to kiss his way down her body. As the pink-haired dragon slayer dragged his tongue down Wendy's thigh, he deeply inhaled the odd scent from earlier. It was an extremely erotic scent that set his body ablaze and made him feel lightheaded. The only thing he was able to focus on was mating. Natsu was panting like a starved beast as he gazed at Wendy's soaked womanhood. Gripping Wendy's thighs, Natsu dove in and began to lick the blue-haired dragon slayer's folds. Shit! Wendy uncharacteristically cursed, reaching down and grabbing Natsu's hair as she felt his tongue go wild inside her. Moaning uncontrollably, Wendy began to grind her hips against Natsu's face. The pink-haired dragon slayer's tongue set her ablaze with pleasure, electric tingles coursing through her body. Wendy's toes curled as she pulled Natsu deeper into her womanhood, a deep moan rumbling in her throat. Keep going, and Natsu. I feel something coming. Natsu doubled his efforts, his tongue working faster as he inserted 2 fingers into Wendy's folds. The blue-haired dragon slayer yelled out in ecstasy as Natsu's fingers furiously worked inside her womanhood. Knowing that Wendy was close, Natsu began to curl his fingers and rub her clitoris with his thumb. A few seconds later, Wendy let out a lengthy moan as she lifted her hips off the couch. An intense orgasm rocked her body, causing her to shake as she squirted her juices in Natsu's waiting mouth. Wendy's orgasm was so powerful that she unleashed a small amount of her magic, sending out a small burst of wind. *WOW, that was incredible. Wendy breathed out as she tried to catch her breath, staring at the various objects now scattered across the living room. Sorry about the mess, Natsu. The pink-haired dragon slayer said nothing, standing up in front of Wendy as he licked his lips. Wendy was about to say something but stopped when she saw the massive bulge in Natsu's pants. Now, it was her turn to lick her lips as she gazed at the impressive tent.
Natsu continued to say nothing as he breathed heavily, simply staring down at Wendy. Both dragon slayers were overcome with an overwhelming lust as Wendy reached out and gripped the waist of Natsu's pants. Wasting no time, she pulled his pants and underwear down in one swift motion. Wendy gasped when Natsu's erection was freed, nearly hitting her in the face. The blue-haired dragon slayer stared at the pillar of flesh, practically drooling. "Suck it." Wendy's mind started to go blank as she breathed in Natsu's musky, masculine scent. Without any hesitation, she got on her knees in front of Natsu and leaned in, giving his shaft a lick from base to tip. Opening her mouth, Wendy engulfed the head of Natsu's manhood and began to bob her head back and forth. A low moan rumbled in her throat as the erotic taste of Natsu's rod filled her mouth. Because of his impressive size, Wendy could only take about half of Natsu's shaft in her mouth. But, whatever Wendy couldn't reach with her mouth, she stroked with her hands. While one had worked Natsu's shaft, her other massaged his testicles. Natsu growled as he suddenly grabbed Wendy's head, growing tired of her slow pace. The blue-haired dragon slayer's eyes widened as Natsu began to thrust his manhood deeper into her mouth. She fought back the urge to gag as Natsu practically forced his way down her throat. Despite the discomfort, Wendy didn't push Natsu away. In fact, she relaxed herself and let him have his way with her. Wendy reached down and began to play with herself, Natsu being so aggressive seriously arousing her. "Yes. Use me for your own pleasure. Do whatever you want to me," Wendy thought, shuddering as another orgasm washed over her. The speed of Natsu's thrust suddenly increased and Wendy could tell that he was getting close, his balls slapping against her chin. Natsu's breathing became ragged as he gave a few more deep thrusts. "Give it to me. Let me taste it." With one final, powerful thrust, Natsu buried himself to the hilt in Wendy's mouth. A guttural moan rumbled in Natsu's throat as his orgasm washed over him. Wendy groaned in pleasure as she felt Natsu shoot rope after rope of hot seed down her throat. After nearly a minute, Natsu's orgasm finally died down and he pulled his semi-erect shaft from Wendy's mouth. The blue-haired dragon slayer's face was flushed red as she inhaled deeply, taking a moment to catch her breath. Wendy licked her lips, desperate to taste more of Natsu's semen. Both dragon slayers were panting lightly as they stared at each other for several moments. Then, without a word, Natsu and Wendy lunged toward each other. Effortlessly, Natsu picked Wendy up and cupped her thighs, with the blue-haired dragon slayer wrapping her legs around his waist. Wendy's back slammed into the wall as Natsu captured her lips in a fiery kiss. The blue-haired dragon slayer moaned as she felt Natsu's erect shaft rub against her dripping womanhood. Breaking their lip lock, both dragon slayers rested their foreheads together, breathing heavily. "Wendy," Natsu said as he managed to suppress his overflowing lust for a few moments. "Are you sure you want to keep going? Don't you dare even think of stopping." Wendy breathed out, grinding her wet folds against Natsu's throbbing erection. "We've come this far, we can't stop now. My entire body feels like it's on fire right now and the only thing that will help is feeling you inside me." Natsu said nothing, instead, he simply grabbed his shaft and guided it into Wendy's womanhood. Bot dragon slayers moaned as Natsu's manhood slid deeper inside Wendy. After what felt like an eternity for both of them, Natsu hilted himself in Wendy's folds. The blue-haired dragon slayer looked slightly uncomfortable due to Natsu's size. So, he held himself back for a few moments to let her get used to him being inside her. However, it didn't take long for Wendy to start feeling immense pleasure. She rocked her hips a bit, causing a brief moan to escape her lips. Knowing that he was good to start moving, Natsu gripped Wendy's ass and began to thrust into her. As Natsu pounded into Wendy with long, powerful strokes, he leaned in and began to suckle on her breasts. The blue-haired dragon slayer groaned in ecstasy as she reached out and ran her hands along Natsu's muscular back. She bit her bottom lip as she watched his muscles flex with every thrust. Natsu suddenly picked up his pace and the room was soon filled with the sounds of Wendy's moans and skin slapping against skin. It didn't take long for another orgasm to rock Wendy's body, causing her toes to curl as electric tingles raced down her spine. However, before Wendy could even begin to come down from her orgasmic high, she found herself suddenly pulled away from the wall. Natsu carried Wendy across the room, still hilted inside her, and set her back down on the couch on all fours. Grabbing a hold of Wendy's hips, Natsu began to rapidly pound into her. Wendy buried her face into the couch and bit the cushion, her body rocking forward every time Natsu thrust into her. With every thrust, Natsu pulled out until only the tip of his manhood remained inside Wendy, before fully thrusting back inside her. Wendy's eyes rolled back as Natsu continued his intense pace, fucking her relentlessly. Wendy was hit by multiple orgasms one after another, rocking her hips back in time with Natsu's thrusts. But, just as Wendy was somewhat getting used to the unrelenting pace, Natsu changed their positions once again. He picked her up off the couch and laid her down on the floor, with her ass sticking up in the air and her legs up near her head. Natsu quickly mounted Wendy and began to pound into her like a piledriver, his entire length buried inside her with every thrust. Wendy was a moaning mess, her tongue lolled out as Natsu pounded into her like a lust-crazed beast. "Wendy, I'm getting close." Natsu grunted, tightly gripping Wendy's hips as he slowed his pace slightly, feeling his own orgasm rapidly approaching. Wendy looked like she was about to say something, but Natsu smirked and cut her off. "I'm going to finish inside you." Changing their position one final time, Natsu and Wendy were now in a simple missionary position. The pink-haired dragon slayer's hips were a blur as he picked up his pace once again. Both dragon slayers kissed once again, their tongues twisting and twirling around each other. Wendy wrapped her arms around Natsu's neck, deepening their lip lock as a low moan rumbled in her throat. Feeling his orgasm bubbling up, Natsu broke their lip lock and began to kiss Wendy's neck. "She is ready. Another dragon slayer, she is a perfect mate. Take her as you mate, now. You will produce powerful offspring together." With one final thrust, Natsu buried himself completely inside Wendy. As the pink-haired dragon slayer began to shoot his seed, he bit down into Wendy's neck and began to pump some of his magic inside her. However, to Natsu's surprise, Wendy did the same, sinking her fangs into the crook of his neck, some of her magic flowing into his body. Natsu groaned in pleasure, feeling Wendy's womanhood milking his shaft for every drop of his seed. After about a minute, Natsu pulled his softening manhood out of Wendy, a mixture of their combined juices following him. With a grunt, Natsu collapsed onto the floor next to Wendy, both dragon slayers panting lightly. That was amazing." Wendy breathed out as she scooched over and cuddled up next to Natsu. "It was better than I could have imagined. I'm glad you enjoyed it," Natsu said with a chuckle, reaching down and patting Wendy's head as she rested it against his chest. "I'm sorry I didn't notice sooner, Wendy. You must have had it pretty rough all day." "You don't need to apologize, Natsu. I should have talked with you about this, instead of letting it build up for so long. If I didn't come here tonight, things have gotten a lot worse," Wendy said as she buried her face into Natsu's chest, attempting to hide her flushed cheeks. "But there's one thing you need to know, Natsu. The reason I chose you as my mate wasn't just because of my draconic instincts, I really do care about you. When we reunited during the whole Nirvana incident, it was the happiest I'd been in my entire life. Then, after I lost my home at Kate's shelter, you brought me to a new one where I've made so many amazing friends. I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for me, Natsu, and I couldn't imagine my life without you. I love you, Natsu Dragneel." Natsu said nothing for a few moments, taking in Wendy's heartfelt confession. He soon rolled over so that he hovered over Wendy, staring into the blue-haired dragon slayer's eyes. "Wendy, what you just said made me so happy, to know that you cared so much about me. You know that I'm not great with words, I'm usually a man of action, so..." Leaning in, Natsu captured Wendy's lips in a tender and loving kiss. After a few moments, Natsu broke their lip lock and Wendy let out a shaky breath, the kiss haven taking her breath away. "I love you too, Wendy Marvel." "Oh, Natsu," Wendy exclaimed as he wrapped her arms around the pink-haired dragon slayer and hugged him tightly. However, Wendy squeaked in surprise when she felt something poke against her stomach. Looking down, she felt her body start to heat up again when she saw that Natsu's manhood was fully erect again. Reaching down, Wendy began to slowly stroke Natsu's shaft, causing him to hiss in pleasure. "I don't know about you, Natsu, but I can still feel my draconic instincts screaming at me to mate with you. Heh, I've got two dragons telling me the same thing." Natsu said with a smirk, guiding his manhood back inside Wendy, which caused them both to moan. I hope you're ready, Wendy. I have a feeling that two dragons can mate all night. As both dragon slayers continued their intense mating session, they were so engrossed in their lovemaking they didn't notice the subtle changes in their appearance. Like with Natsu's other mates, a detailed and intricate mate mark formed on the nape of Wendy's neck where the pink-haired dragon slayer had bit. Several streaks of pink also formed in her blue hair. However, since Wendy was a dragon slayer as well, Natsu's appearance began to change slightly. A less detailed mate mark formed where Wendy had bitten him. The mark consisted of a dragon surrounded by rushing wind and clouds of gas. A single streak of blue also formed in Natsu's pink hair. Just like Natsu had done with his lovers, Wendy had officially marked him as her mate. Same time, Fiore Magical Council. This is utterly ridiculous. What's with this outrageous number of written apologies? A Magical Council member exclaimed as he slapped his hand on top of a massive stack of papers. Are you really trying to tell me that a single guild caused all these issues? Fairy tale. Another council member grumbled, rubbing his temples. They've been a headache since the previous generation of mages. Bah, there's no need to get so worked up. An elderly-looking council member, with a bat-like creature sitting atop his head, said as he released a light sigh. Remember, they recently went through the trouble of taking out Oration Cease. But, there's no proof of the council approving their plan. Another council member countered as he smacked a stack of papers with the back of his hand. They moved into action solely upon the judgment of an alliance of local guilds. To put it bluntly, the first council member said in a frustrated tone, slamming his fist onto the table. Even though it was against a dark guild, they violated the rule prohibiting fighting amongst guilds. We must also consider that other members of the Balam Alliance will now seek revenge. I don't think we'll have to worry about that. An elderly, female council member chimed in as she scanned through one of the papers in front of her. They may call themselves an alliance, but it's more akin to a non-aggression pact. I think we should be more worried about the reports of fairy tale members calling Jalal a friend. This council has been reformed. A council member with an eye patch exclaimed, his eyes narrowing slightly. And what does that mean? It means we must make an example of fairy tale in front of everyone. In order to restore the trust we once lost. The council's chairman, Grand Doma, said as he rose out of his seat. We will crack down harder on questionable guilds. There will be no more second chances for fairy tale. The next time that guild causes an incident, they will be dissolved. Raising his staff, Grand Doma slammed it onto the ground. It's all for the sacred order of the magical world. The following morning, Fairy Tale Guild. Ugh, my head is killing me. Lisanna grumbled, resting her head on top of a table. All around Lisanna, the guild was a complete mess, with passed-out mages scattered across the floor and amongst the trash tables. I haven't drank that much in a long time. Hearing happy humming, Lisanna looked up and saw her older sister picking up some of the mugs littered across the floor. How the hell are you so cheery, Mirene? You drank more than me. I guess I just handle my alcohol better. Mira Jane said with a sweet smile as she made her way behind the bar, setting down the mugs she had gathered. After disappearing for a few moments, Mira Jane soon returned and set down a cup of coffee in front of Lisanna. Here, drink this. It should help you feel better. Thanks, Mirene. Lisanna said, grabbing the cup and taking a long sip. After letting out a content sigh, Lisanna set the cup back down. So, Mirene, you were gonna tell me what's up with your hair. You got real weird when I brought it up. Oh yeah, that. Mira Jane said as she released a light sigh, sitting down across from her little sister. Scanning around them, Mira Jane saw that pretty much everyone else in the guild was still out cold. I'll tell you, Lisanna. But, you have to promise not to tell anyone. Okay, now I need to know. Lisanna said, leaning in a bit closer. I've never seen you like this before, Mirene. Well, the reason my hair is like this. Mira Jane said as she twirled a streak of pink hair around her finger. It has to do with Natsu. Natsu? Lisanna parroted in a confused tone, quirking an eyebrow in confusion.
What does he have to do with your hair? Are you trying to copy him or something? Not exactly.
Mira Jane muttered as she nervously tapped her fingers together, working up the courage to reveal the truth to Lisanna.
You see, it's not just my hair.
Leaning across the table, Mira Jane pulled down the strap of her dress, revealing her mate mark.
There's also this. Whoa! Lisanna said, getting in close and examining the mark. Awesome tattoo, Mirane.
But, I don't see what that has to do with Natsu.
That's because it's not a tattoo.
Mira Jane revealed as she took a deep breath to prepare herself.
It's a mate mark. Mate mark?
Lisanna repeated in a confused tone, her brow furrowing as she processed what Mira Jane had said. After a few moments, Lisanna connected the dots in her head and her eyes shot open in shock.
You and Natsu had SE dash. Shush.
Mira Jane hissed as she pressed a finger to her lips, slapping a hand over Lisanna's mouth.
Do you want to advertise it to the whole guild? It's supposed to be a secret, remember?
I'm so, sorry, Mirane. Lisanna mumbled, sitting back in her seat and looking completely bewildered.
I can't believe you and Natsu, together like that. It surprised the hell out of me. Sorry, I didn't say anything sooner, Lisanna.
Mira Jane apologized as she fidgeted a bit in her seat.
I knew how you felt about Natsu and I didn't want to make things awkward. How I felt about Natsu?
Lisanna said, appearing to be confused by what her older sister had said. However, she quickly caught on and couldn't stop herself from laughing.
Oh, Mirane, I don't like Natsu like that.
Mira Jane's eyes widened slightly when she heard this.
I do love Natsu, but he's like family to me.
If I did try to be romantic with him, it would be like I was dating Elf Niken.
And that's just, something I want to never picture ever again. Oh, well that's a weight off my shoulders.
Mira Jane said as she breathed out a sigh of relief.
But, there is one other thing you should know, Lisanna. I'm not the only one in a relationship with Natsu. Urza and Lucy are too, right?
Lisanna said, chuckling to herself when she saw how surprised Mira Jane was.
Oh, don't look so shocked, Mirane.
With the way those two were hovering around him all day yesterday, it was kind of obvious something was going on between them. I guess I'll have to talk with them both about how intimate they're being with Natsu at the guild.
They're gonna blow things if they aren't careful.
Mira Jane said as she released a light sigh, pinching the bridge of her nose.
However, her happy and cheery demeanor quickly returned. I'm so happy I told you, Lisanna. I would have hated keeping a secret like this from you. I'm happy that you're happy, Mirane.
You were positively glowing whenever you were around Natsu yesterday. I can tell how happy he makes you. Lisanna said with a smile, reaching out and placing her hands on top of her older sister's.
So, have you told Elf Niken too? Oh God, no.
Mira Jane replied immediately as she shook her head and chuckled.
He'd freak out if he found out. Heh, you're probably right. Lisanna said, chuckling as well. Patting the top of Mira Jane's hand, Lisanna got up from her seat. Come on, Mirane. I'll help you start cleaning this mess.
Wow, this place is a disaster. Lucy commented as she walked into the trashed guild hall, Urza following close behind her.
We really overdid it yesterday. We've thrown bigger parties.
Urza said, stepping over a few of her unconscious guildmates. Scanning around the wrecked guild, Urza groaned at the sheer amount of destruction.
But perhaps we did get a bit too crazy yesterday. Oh, there's Levi-chan. Lucy cheered as she spotted the petite, blue Annette sitting at one of the intact tables.
Levi's face was buried in a book, so she didn't notice Lucy approach her. Seeing how engrossed Levi was, Lucy giggled and waved a hand in front of her face.
What are you reading, Levi-chan?
Sorry, I didn't notice you there, Luchan. Levi said with a smile, setting the book down on the table. Her face flushed slightly as she rubbed the back of her head. About the book, well, I wanted to get a bit closer to Gajeel, so I decided to learn more about dragon slayers.
I ended up borrowing this book from Mira Jane. Oh, you and Gajeel have been getting closer, eh?
Lucy playfully teased as she sat down next to Levy, causing the Bluenette's face to flush even brighter red.
So, have you learned anything interesting?
Oh,
I've learned a ton.
Levy exclaimed, immediately perking up as she flipped the book open to a specific section. I was just reading this super interesting section about female dragon slayers.
Apparently, once they come of age, their draconic instincts urge them to find a mate.
They enter a state of heat and begin emitting a sort of pheromones that drive their desired mate wild with lust.
Oh no.
Lucy thought, keenly aware that Natsu and Wendy currently weren't at the guild. Wendy just came of age yesterday, and she already talked about wanting Natsu to be her mate. There's no way they haven't mated yet.
Looks like we have a new member of the family. Same time, unknown location.
How? A dark-haired man sighed after taking several drinks of water from a small stream. The man wore high-collared black and tan robes with gold trim, along with a large, flowing white toga draped around his torso. He had short black hair, dark eyes, and abnormally sharp canines.
He also had a pendant dropped around his neck.
Looking up, the man stared at the full moon overhead.
However, he was interrupted when he heard growling from all around him.
A sad look formed on his face when he saw that he was surrounded by a pack of wolves.
You really shouldn't come near me. The wolves ignored his warning, drooling as they slowly stalked toward the man. Trembling slightly, the man held up his arms defensively.
He knew it wouldn't work, but he still tried to dissuade the wolves.
Please stop. I'm not your enemy,
the man said, the wolves charging toward him.
However, just as one of the wolves leaped toward the man, the beast suddenly crashed into the ground.
All the other wolves quickly followed suit, each of them collapsing. I warned you, you shouldn't have come near. But it wasn't just the wolves, all around the man, even the plant life began to wither away and die.
Sorry, it's not like I wanted to kill you, but this world rejects me.
All around the dark-haired man, deceased birds fell from the sky and the trees were utterly barren, everything around him looking like a dead wasteland. Looking up at the moon once again, a single tear rolled down the dark-haired man's cheek.
I want to see you again, Natsu.
That wraps up this part of What If Natsu Had Dual Elements.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned.
Quick reminder. What If Natsu Had Dual Elements is now on hold, since we've caught up with the author.
I'd love to do another poll to decide our next project, but unfortunately, due to my travel plans, I won't be able to start a new series until the end of December if we go that route. So instead, I've decided that the series which came in second place in the last poll will be our next project. That means the series replacing What If Natsu Had Dual Elements will be What If Transmigrated into One Piece and Became a Marine? Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.